All right, it's time to deliver on some of that content I've been promising for the longest time. Why? Because I just passed the magic 1,000 subscriber threshold. Thank you so much, everyone, for being on this journey with me. But like I said, I've been promising some insight, little glimpse into my personal cross training. As I've mentioned over and over again, I've spent about the last 2.5 years now studying HEMA for the first time in my life. But in doing so, I cannot help but apply my longer experience from traditional Japanese and Chinese swordsmanship. And I don't consider myself any kind of master, expert, teacher, anything like that. I've just been training and studying it for, well, since the 70s. And I can't help but compare and contrast. And there are a stunning amount of similarities across cultures and eras and even different masters that by looking at those similarities and then also considering the differences in techniques, tactics, weapons, approaches, has managed to, I think, provide me a depth of insight I wouldn't otherwise have had. It's certainly enriching my understanding and practice of those traditional East Asian arts, whereas it's definitely giving me particular insight as I approach the new stuff as well. So I wanted to give you just a little taste of this and see what you think of it. And I wanted to start today with a little, again, taste of Manciolino's Opera Nova. Super short background. Antonio Manciolino's Opera Nova, published in 1531, a very, very dense martial arts manual. And I definitely appreciate the contents because he goes through some fairly involved solo choreography, like kata forms. There's a lot of drills, a lot of partner practice, and a lot of variation. Most of it, though, is focused around the use of what today we would call a side sword. A one-handed cut and thrust sword with a pretty good amount of hand protection, often paired with a buckler. However, he does have sections where he talks about what to do if you don't have a buckler, or maybe you have a larger targe, or something else in your offhand, including a whole other full-size sword, dual wielding, and a lot of other stuff. It's a big, thick work. But he starts in book 1 by introducing his guard positions and then talking about his major cuts and thrusts, and then immediately jumping into a really dense section where he breaks down each one of his guard positions and gives a series of combinations offensively, followed by defensive counters to each one. So as your sample today, I wanted to take the first posture and the first combination. So we're going to start with Guardia Alta, the high guard. And to demonstrate it inside, not kill the ceiling, I'm not going to use the side sword. I'll take that outside. But my APOC broadsword, and I still have to make certain adjustments to keep from killing the ceiling. The posture is described as having the sword held high and to the right of the head. Now, some of the illustrations will have your arm way up here. So yeah, that's why I can't do it with anything in my hand and not be through the ceiling. Buckler is held in front of you, either close or extended, depending on the situation. Now, most of the time in actual practice and application, I see people hold it about this high, which makes perfect sense to me. Speaking of perfect sense to me, if I'm thinking of this from the lens of Japanese style swordsmanship, and you tell me high guard, and again using something a little shorter, my tactical katana, I immediately think Jodan, yes? Right? So over the head, canted backwards, high guard position. Now, Manciolino also talks about footwork. Sometimes he's very, very specific about foot position and footwork, and sometimes he gives you the option of, well, whatever works the best in the given situation. When he describes high guard, he says you can have your right or left foot forward, wide stance or narrow stance. When I am in Jodan, I can have my right or left foot forward depending on what I'm doing or the kata I'm training. But if I'm thinking about having the sword over on the right side of my head, what am I thinking? Well, probably Hasso. And if I'm in Hasso over here, probably going to have my left foot forward. So there's certain places that the use of this sword will dictate my footwork, well, maybe a little bit more or a little bit differently. What is his first combination? Well, going back to a straight weapon, he's going to start from that high guard, and he's going to do a mandrito, a diagonal cut downwards from the outside that will move him into the over-the-arm position. Okay, this is common in many different kinds of swordsmanship. That will be immediately followed by a reverso, a diagonal downward cut from the inside to the outside, at which point you're in a fairly low position. You're going to cut straight up with the back edge, the falso, which gets you back into Alta. So here, here, here. So I'm going to go outside and do that with a full-size side sword. Hopefully it looks right. Again, I don't consider myself any kind of master expert. And when it comes to HEMA, if there's anything below rank amateur, that's me, but I'll try to do my best. And then I'm going to try to reimagine it a couple of different ways with Japanese swordsmanship. Let's see what happens.